As he's grabbing the bag, shots are fired.
Who shoots the shots that are fired?
Michael Boatwright.
You turned a robbery into a murder. And on that day, when you stood there and fired that weapon, you didn't just end one life. You effectively ended 5 lives. You will spend the rest of your life in prison. From here, you will go and be placed in a cell that has a stainless steel slab that's attached to the wall. That's your bed. And next to it is a stainless steel sink and a stainless steel toilet. That's the furniture that you have in that cell. You'll spend every hour and every day and every week and every year of your life in that cell. And one day, they'll come and open up that cell in the morning and you'll have passed on. And only on that day will you have served your sentence.
The robbery was already over. The bag was taken, the money was gone. The target wasn't fighting back, wasn't reaching for anything, wasn't giving them a reason to do anything else. And then shots were fired anyway. 3 of the 4 people involved would spend the rest of their lives in prison without any chance of release. But one of them made a different choice. He talked. He told investigators everything, from the moment the plan started to the exact second it went too far. And because he did that, he eventually walked free. That contrast is what makes this case stick with people years after the verdict. Not just what happened on June 18th, 2018, but what happened after. On that morning, XXXTentacion walked into a bank in South Florida and withdrew around $50,000 in cash. He put it in a Louis Vuitton bag and headed to a motorcycle dealership. He wasn't hiding, he wasn't being careful. At 20 years old, his career was already at a level most artists spend their entire lives chasing. His music was everywhere, fans tracked his movements in real time, and the visibility that came with that kind of fame was just part of the daily reality he moved through. Not far away, 4 men were driving around in a rented SUV. They weren't looking for him specifically, they were looking for an opportunity. Anyone with something worth taking. They had weapons, they had masks, and they had nothing locked in yet. Then one of them saw the car, a black BMW i8 sitting in the dealership parking lot. One of them recognized it immediately, not from seeing it in person before, but from social media. He pulled up the Instagram account right there in the vehicle, matched the car in the photos to the one outside, and confirmed it. What had been a random search for a target suddenly had a name attached to it. To make absolutely sure, one of them went inside the store, walked right past him while he was browsing like any other customer. No confrontation, no signal, just confirmation. And while inside, they bought masks, in the same location, on camera, while their target was standing feet away. Outside, one of them said it wasn't a good idea, that they had already been seen on camera inside the store, that this could come back on them. That hesitation was real, and in another version of events, it changes everything. But the energy in the car shifted the other way. No one wanted to be the person who backed down. All the doubt got pushed aside. Masks went on, weapons were ready. The SUV moved across the street and parked where they could watch the exit clearly. They waited 8 minutes. When John walked out and got into his car, the SUV pulled forward and blocked the exit before there was any chance to react. 2 masked men jumped out. One rushed to the driver's side window with a weapon visible. The other moved in right behind him. Inside the car, there was no weapon, no resistance, no movement that suggested any threat coming back at them. They tried to grab the chain first but couldn't get it off quickly. They switched to the bag. The Louis Vuitton bag with $50,000 in cash was taken within seconds. The passenger inside the car ran, getting out of the immediate danger and surviving. The robbery was complete. Yes, everything they came for was already in their hands. And then, Michael Boatwright, standing at the driver's side window, fired 3 shots. There was no escalation from the victim, no argument, no movement, nothing that required that response. The robbery was finished. The only thing those shots changed was the charge everyone would eventually face. XXXTentacion was pronounced dead at the hospital. He was 20 years old. The 4 men drove away. Once they regrouped, they opened the bag and split the money. 3 of them took roughly $15,000 each. Robert Allen, who had stayed in the vehicle during the robbery itself, received around $5,000. There were arguments about the split, about who did more, about who took the bigger risk. Then they made a series of decisions that accelerated everything. Instead of disappearing, they started celebrating. Cash was flashed on social media. Stacks of money, smiling, acting like they had gotten away clean, posted publicly with timestamps from real accounts. One of them was still wearing the same outfit captured on surveillance footage inside the dealership. No attempt to change anything. Phones were active, posts were public, and every piece of digital behavior was leaving a trail that investigators would have access to almost immediately. Arrests began within days. Not weeks, not months. Days. But arrests and convictions are different things. Prosecutors had footage, phone data, and digital evidence. What they needed was someone who could explain exactly what the footage showed. Who had which weapon, who made the call, who pulled the trigger. That's where Robert Allen became central to the case. Out of the four, he had been the most hesitant from the beginning. He was the one who said the plan was a bad idea when they were still inside the dealership. He didn't step out during the robbery. He didn't fire a weapon. He stayed in the vehicle. But he was still part of it. He was there for the planning. He confirmed the target. He took the money. The law doesn't draw a clean line between participation and pulling the trigger in the way people might hope it does. He knew he was facing serious time. And when investigators started applying pressure, he made a decision. He talked. Not partially, not strategically vague. He gave the full account. He described how the rental car was arranged, who carried which weapon going in, who went inside the store to verify the target, who made the final call when doubt showed up, and exactly what happened in the moment the shots were fired. He identified Michael Boatwright as the shooter and described the sequence of events from inside the vehicle with the kind of detail that only comes from someone who was actually there. In exchange, prosecutors offered a plea deal. The most serious charges were reduced. His sentence would be significantly lighter than what he would have faced if he had stayed silent and gone to trial with the others. He accepted. At trial, everything Allen described was corroborated by independent evidence. DNA connected specific individuals to the masks purchased inside the dealership. Location data from phones placed each person exactly where Allen said they would be at exactly the time he described. Fingerprints recovered from the victim's car matched defendants. And the timeline Allen outlined, from entering the dealership to the getaway, matched surveillance footage and phone records without any significant gaps. The defense challenged his credibility. They argued he had every incentive to say whatever was needed to reduce his own exposure, that his past record made him an unreliable witness, that the jury should be skeptical of anyone taking a deal. Those are legitimate arguments in any case where a cooperating witness is the centerpiece. The problem was that the evidence didn't depend on him being believed. It used him as a guide through a trail that existed independently. Every major claim he made could be checked against something physical, something recorded, or something traceable. The jury wasn't being asked to take his word for it. They were being shown that his word matched everything else. The verdict came back guilty on all major counts. Michael Boatwright, identified as the shooter, received multiple life sentences stacked together with additional years attached. Dedrick Williams and Trayvon Newsome, the other two who stayed silent, each received life without the possibility of parole. Robert Allen received a significantly reduced sentence. Time already served during the legal process counted toward it. He was released in 2023. 3 men will die in prison. 1 is already back outside, living a different life. Same situation, same night, same decisions made together up until a certain point. And then, one diverging choice that produced completely different outcomes. People have strong reactions to that reality, and they don't all point in the same direction. While some say the system worked exactly as designed, cooperation produces information, information produces convictions, and reduced sentences for cooperators are the mechanism that makes that exchange possible. Without Allen, the specific roles might have been harder to establish in court. The most serious charges might have been harder to prove. Others look at the same set of facts and ask a different question. A 20-year-old is gone. 3 people who participated in the events of that day will never leave prison, and the 4th, who was also there, who also took the money, who could have said something in the 8 minutes they sat outside and didn't, is free. Whether that feels like justice depends on what justice is supposed to accomplish. The case settled legally is clear. And as the men responsible for what happened to next on June 18, 2018, were identified, prosecuted, and sentenced in a way that the evidence fully supported. The most serious consequences landed on the person who fired the shots. What it left open is the harder question that doesn't get resolved by a verdict. When someone is at the center of something this serious and chooses to speak in exchange for a lighter outcome, is that justice serving itself, or just the system rewarding the decision that makes prosecution easier? Both things can be true at the same time. That's why people are still talking about it. Do you think Robert Allen made the right call? Or should he have faced the same consequences as the others? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more breakdowns on the cases and decisions that shaped hip-hop history.